This player could take the Lakers to the next level if used right. And Laker fans know who that player is. It's Rui. Rui's been having a phenomenal season, and the numbers prove it. He's putting up over 13 points per game while grabbing more than 5 rebounds and dishing out around 1.5 assists. But what really stands out is his efficiency. He's knocking down over 51% of his shot, which is incredible considering how much the Lakers rely on him in the starting lineup. That kind of efficiency is rare for someone who's not just catching and shooting, but actually creating offense. With Anthony Davis gone, Rui's been logging the most minutes he's had all year. That says a lot about how much the coaching staff trusts him. The Lakers have had plenty of moving pieces this season, especially after bringing in Luka, but Rui has remained a constant. The guy has started every game he's been available for, and if they were going to move him to the bench, they probably would have done it already. But let's talk about the rotation, because that's where things get really interesting. The Lakers now have a lineup featuring Luka, LeBron, Hayes, Rui, and Reeves. That's a lot of offensive firepower. But the question is, do they need more defense in the starting lineup? Some believe that sliding Rui to the bench for an elite defender like Finney Smith or even Gabe Vincent could be a smart move. That would give Rui more freedom to dominate with the second unit while keeping the starting lineup balanced on both ends. Here's the thing. Rui thrives at the 4, but with LeBron being better suited at that spot, it complicates things. If Rui moves to the bench, it opens up opportunities for guys like Vanderbilt or Finney Smith to play the 3, which could be huge for the Lakers defense. But again, there's no guarantee that's happening. The team has already shown they're willing to start both Rui, so the idea of Rui suddenly moving to the bench might not be as realistic as some think. Rui's role is fascinating because he's been the X factor for this team. When the Lakers are rolling, he's a big reason why. And when things aren't going well, he's often one of the first players people point fingers at. He's been everywhere this season, sometimes leading the charge, sometimes disappearing for stretches. But that's what makes him such a wild card. The Lakers sent a clear message when they traded D'Angelo Russell for Finney Smith. They wanted to shift their identity. Trading an offensive-minded guard for a 3-and-D forward changes everything, especially for Rui. But here's the thing. Rui's actually benefiting from this. His role has been more defined. His shot selection has improved, and his efficiency has skyrocketed. Playing alongside better players means he's getting better shots, and that's why his field goal percentage is so elite. But if he's only getting limited offensive opportunities with the starters, would it make sense for him to lead the second unit instead? The Lakers bench has been desperate for scoring, and Rui could be the answer. If he's unleashed in a bench role, he could put up even better numbers while still maintaining his efficiency. At the end of the day, the Lakers have options. Rui's playing at an elite level, and if they use him properly, he could take them to another level. Whether he stays in the starting lineup or shifts to the bench, his impact is undeniable. The guy is simply too good to be overlooked. But I want to dive into advanced stats on why I think this could be the play for the Lakers. Rui's putting up over 13 points per game, ranking in the top 82% of players in scoring efficiency. That's not just good, it's elite. His effective field goal percentage sits at 59.5%, meaning he's scoring efficiently from everywhere on the court. That's exactly the kind of player a bench unit needs as its focal point. But here's where things really get interesting. When you compare his shooting numbers to the rest of the Lakers bench, it becomes clear that he'd be the perfect lead scorer for that group. Dalton Connect is already giving them close to 10 points per game while maintaining an effective field goal percentage of 57.5%. That's incredibly solid, especially for a player who thrives as a spot-up shooter. He's knocking down around 1.6 threes per game, which is huge because it means he's capable of stretching the floor. And that's where Rui comes in. His ability to create his own shot would draw defensive attention, leaving Connect with even more open looks from beyond the arc. His shooting efficiency is already in the top 72% of the league. And if he's playing off Rui, those numbers could skyrocket. The better looks he gets, the more dangerous he becomes. Then there's Jordan Goodwin, one of the most efficient scorers in the entire league. He's averaging 10 points per game, but his efficiency is on another level. His effective field goal percentage is an absurd 65.9%, ranking him in the top 95% of players. That is beyond elite. And his true shooting percentage, an absolutely ridiculous 68.2%. That means he's scoring at an insanely high level while barely needing any shot attempts to do it. He's putting up only 7.3 field goal attempts per game, yet he's scoring just as much as Connect, who's taking more shots. That's what makes him the perfect secondary option next to Rui. Goodwin doesn't need to dominate the ball to be effective. He just takes the best shots available and converts at an absurd rate. Now, Let's break down how this unit would actually function together. Rui is already scoring 1.2 points per field goal attempt, which is incredibly efficient. Connect is sitting at the same number with 1.2 points per field goal attempt, while Goodwin is blowing that away with 1.4. That's the kind of efficiency that turns a good bench into an elite one. The Lakers' second unit would have 3 guys who all know how to get high-quality shots and convert them at ridiculous rates, and that's before even considering how their skill sets complement each other. Rui's ability to create his own shot would take so much pressure off Connect. That means Connect wouldn't have to force tough attempts and could focus purely on his strength, spacing the floor and knocking down open shots. Meanwhile, Goodwin's absurd efficiency means that even if he's not taking a ton of shots, he's still going to be one of the most valuable players on the court. That's what makes this trio so dangerous. Everyone plays off each other perfectly. And let's talk about volume, because that matters too. Rui is already attempting close to 10 shots per game, and if he's leading the bench unit, that number could increase even more. Connect is right behind him at 7.4, and Goodwin is slightly lower at 7.3. If Rui takes over as the primary option off the bench, those numbers could shift in a way that allows the Lakers to maximize every player's strength. Connect and Goodwin wouldn't have to take bad shots or force offense. They just take the best opportunities that come to them, while Rui carries the bulk of the scoring load. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives I'll be posting every day during this season, I'd genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Rui. Here's where it gets even better. Rui isn't just an efficient scorer, he's one of the most efficient scorers in the league. His true shooting percentage is 61.8, ranking him in the top 82% of players. That means he's not just getting buckets, he's doing it in the most effective way possible. And that's exactly what you want from the leader of your second unit. If the Lakers keep him in the starting lineup, he has to fight for shots with Luka, LeBron, and Reeves. But off the bench, he becomes the clear number 1 option, getting more touches and maximizing his elite shooting ability. And the impact on his teammates? It would be massive. Connect and Goodwin are already ridiculously efficient, and playing alongside Rui would only make them better. Connect's ability to hit threes would create spacing for Rui to operate, while Goodwin's insane scoring efficiency would mean Rui never has to worry about carrying the entire load by himself. It's the perfect balance between a primary scorer, a sharpshooter, and an ultra-efficient secondary option. But let's go even deeper into the numbers, because this isn't just about scoring. It's about how the Lakers can maximize every possession. Rui's effective field goal percentage of 59.5 is already one of the best marks on the team. But when you pair that with Connect's 57.5 and Goodwin's insane 65.9, you're looking at a second unit that's capable of outscoring a lot of starting lineups across the league. That's the kind of depth that wins games. And here's another thing, spacing. Rui's presence on the bench would give the Lakers way more flexibility with their rotations. He's a proven mid-range and inside scorer, which forces defenses to collapse on him. That means Connect is going to be left open for even more three-point attempts, and we already know how efficient he is from deep. And Goodwin, he's the perfect safety valve. He doesn't need a lot of shots, but when he gets them, he makes them count at an elite rate. Every piece of this puzzle fits together perfect. Now, if the Lakers keep Rui in the starting lineup, he's going to be sharing shots with Luka, LeBron, and Reeves, which limits his overall impact. But if he leads the bench unit, he gets to take over as the primary option while still playing with two of the most efficient scorers in the league. That's not just a good strategy. That's the best way to maximize this roster. And it's not just about Rui's numbers. Look at the impact this move would have on Connect and Goodwin. Connect is already in the top 77% of players in overall scoring efficiency, and that number could rise even higher if he gets cleaner looks from playing off Rui. And Goodwin, he's already one of the most efficient scorers in the entire league, and having Rui as a go-to option would only make him more dangerous. The Lakers would be turning their bench into a legitimate offensive powerhouse. But then this is where it gets crazy. His mixed teamwork rating ranks him in the top 80% of players, meaning his presence on the court consistently creates a positive margin for his team. That's the kind of impact player every second unit needs. His offensive rating sits at 116, showing he contributes efficiently on that end, while his defensive rating is 112.7, giving him a net rating of plus 3.3. That's a massive advantage compared to the rest of the Lakers bench, who have struggled to create the same level of positive impact. Dalton Connect, for example, sits in the 38% range for mixed teamwork rating, which is significantly lower than Rui. His offensive rating of 115.6 is solid, but his defensive rating of 117.9 drags his net rating down to minus 2.4. That means while he can contribute offensively, his overall presence hasn't resulted in a positive margin for the team. But that's exactly why pairing him with Rui off the bench makes so much sense. Rui's ability to create a positive net impact would help balance out Connect's defensive struggle, allowing the second unit to thrive without sacrificing offensive production. Then there's Jordan Goodwin, whose mixed teamwork rating puts him in the bottom 12% of players. His offensive rating of 117.3 is actually the highest among this group, but his defensive rating of 117 means his net rating is barely positive at plus 0.3. That tells a very clear story. He's a solid offensive piece, but he hasn't been able to shift the momentum of a game on his own. But that's exactly why adding Rui to this unit could change everything. Rui's presence on the floor would instantly elevate Goodwin's impact, giving him the structure and support he needs to be more effective. And then there's Alex Len, who has struggled the most in terms of overall impact. His mixed teamwork rating ranks him in the bottom 6% of players, with an offensive rating of 104.9 and a defensive rating of 121.9. That gives him a brutal net rating of minus 16.9, which is a massive drop-off compared to the rest of the bench. His on-off impact shows that when he's on the floor, the team's point differential takes a serious hit, dropping by 8.2 points. That's a major issue, but this is where Rui could completely turn things around. By adding a high-impact player like Rui to this unit, the Lakers could neutralize Len's negative impact while still utilizing his size when needed. Now let's break down the actual teamwork dynamics, because this is where Rui's presence would be felt the most. Right now, Connect has a negative on-off impact, meaning the team performs worse when he's on the floor. Goodwin has an even bigger negative swing, with the team struggling by 6 points when he's playing. Len's numbers are even more drastic, but Rui, the Lakers are 2.6 points better when he's on the floor. That's the kind of swing that changes the trajectory of an entire second unit. When you combine these stats, it's clear that Rui moving to the bench wouldn't just improve his own numbers, it would elevate the entire team. His ability to create a positive net rating would give the Lakers' second unit an actual identity. Instead of being a group of solid individual players who don't necessarily make each other better, Connect would get easier scoring opportunities, Goodwin wouldn't have to carry the offensive load by himself, and Len wouldn't be left exposed without a high-impact player next to him. But let's take this even further. Rui's impact is already huge in the starting lineup, but with the bench unit, his value would multiply. Right now, only 48.9% of his games have resulted in a positive plus-minus, which is actually better than anyone on the Lakers' second unit. Connect sits at 40.8%, Goodwin is down at 33.3%, and Len has only had positive plus-minus games 30.6% of the time. That means Rui's presence alone would raise the chances of the Lakers' second unit outscoring opponents, which is exactly what they've been missing. Now imagine this. The Lakers starters build a lead, and instead of watching it slip away when the bench checks in, Rui leads the second unit and keeps that momentum going. With his ability to positively impact both ends of the floor, the Lakers wouldn't just be treading water when the starters sit, they'd actually be extending their lead. That's a massive shift, and the numbers prove that Rui is the best option to make it happen. Another crucial factor is how Rui's efficiency would balance the inefficiencies of the bench. Connect has a solid offensive rating, but his defensive struggles hurt his overall effectiveness. Goodwin is a great offensive weapon, but his net impact is barely positive because the team hasn't been able to fully maximize his strengths. And Len, his numbers show that he needs a high-impact player next to him to avoid being a liability. Rui solves all of those problems in one move. His ability to create a positive margin while still being an efficient scorer means the Lakers would finally have a second unit that works together instead of just relying on individual performances. And the defense tells the same story. Right now, the second unit has been struggling to slow down opponents, and the advanced stats prove it. Rui ranks in the top 79% of players in mixed team defense, meaning his presence alone forces tougher shots and lowers scoring efficiency for opposing teams. That's exactly the kind of anchor the second unit needs. His individual numbers are even more impressive. He's averaging 0.8 steals, 0.5 blocks, and 3.7 defensive rebounds per game, while helping the Lakers maintain a team defensive efficiency of 112.7 when he's on the floor. That's a massive upgrade over the rest of the Lakers bench, and his presence could instantly take that group from a liability to a strength. Dalton Connect, for example, has had a tough time defensively. His mixed team defense ranks in the bottom 11% of players, meaning opponents are having a much easier time scoring when he's on the floor. His team defensive efficiency is sitting at a rough 117.9, which is significantly worse than Rui's 112.7. That's a massive gap. His individual defensive stats also back up the struggles. He's only averaging 0.4 steals and 0.1 blocks per game, meaning he's not making a lot of plays on that end. But that's exactly why pairing him with Rui off the bench makes so much sense. Rui's ability to contest shots, grab rebounds, and disrupt plays would immediately cover for Connect's weaknesses, balancing out the entire second unit's defense while allowing Connect to focus on what he does best, shooting. Then there's Jordan Goodwin, who's been a slightly better defender, but still nowhere near Rui's level. His mixed team defense ranks in the bottom 37% of players, meaning he's not exactly locking anyone down either. He does contribute more in certain areas though. He's averaging 1 steal per game, which is solid, but he has yet to record a block, and his defensive rebounding numbers are lower than Rui's at 3.3 per game. His team defensive efficiency is sitting at 117, which is another major drop from Rui's 112.7. But here's the key. Goodwin is at his best when he's paired with a strong defender who can handle bigger matchups. That's exactly why adding Rui to this unit would be a game changer. Rui's ability to guard multiple positions and contest shots would allow Goodwin to focus on using his quickness to disrupt passing lanes and create fast break opportunities instead of constantly having to guard tougher matchups. Now let's talk about Alex Len, who's been the biggest defensive liability on the bench. His mixed team defense ranks in the bottom 4% of players. That's about as bad as it gets. His team defensive efficiency is a disastrous 121.9, which is significantly worse than anyone else on the team. And his individual stats aren't saving him either. He's only averaging 0.2 steals and 0.5 blocks, while grabbing just 1.2 defensive rebounds per game. That's just not enough, especially for a big man. But this is where Rui could completely change things. By adding a high-impact defender like Rui to this unit, the Lakers could neutralize Len's weaknesses while still utilizing his size when needed. Now, let's take a step back and look at the overall impact of Rui's presence on the second unit's defense. Right now, Connect, Goodwin, and Len all have team defensive efficiencies worse than 117. Rui, on the other hand, sits at 112.7. That means when he's on the floor, the Lakers are significantly better at preventing points. If the Lakers shift him to the bench, he could instantly improve the second unit's ability to get stops, making it much easier for the team to maintain leads when the starters sit. But it's not just about stopping individual players, it's about making the entire unit function better as a whole. Right now, Connect is allowing too many easy buckets. Goodwin is solid, but inconsistent. And Len is struggling across the board. Rui immediately fixes those problems. His ability to contest shots, grab rebounds, and disrupt offensive flow would allow the second unit to be competitive on defense instead of constantly getting picked apart. Another huge advantage is rebounding. Rui is already grabbing 3.7 defensive boards per game, which is far better than Connect's 2.5, Goodwin's 3.3, and Len's 1.2. That means he's securing stops, preventing second chance points, and getting the Lakers out in transition. That's a huge part of team defense, and it's something the second unit desperately needs. Right now, when Len is on the floor, the Lakers are constantly giving up second chance opportunities. But if Rui is out there instead, those extra possessions disappear. And let's not forget about versatility. Rui isn't just a strong defender, he's capable of guarding multiple positions. Connect struggles against quicker players, Goodwin can only handle smaller guards, and Len isn't mobile enough to contest perimeter shooters. But Rui, he's the perfect answer to all of those problems. His size allows him to contest bigger forwards. His quickness lets him switch onto wings, and his rebounding ability means the Lakers aren't giving up easy second chance points. If Rui moves to the bench, the Lakers would finally have a second unit capable of competing on both ends of the floor. Right now, they've been leaning too heavily on their starters to play defense, but with Rui leading the bench, they wouldn't have to. He would immediately elevate Connect's impact by covering for his weaknesses, allow Goodwin to focus on his strengths, and give Len the support he desperately needs. At the end of the day, Rui isn't just a good defender, he's an impact player. His ability to contest shots, grab rebounds, and force tough possessions puts him in the top 79% of players on that end. That's exactly why the Lakers need him running the second unit. The numbers don't lie. This move wouldn't just improve the Lakers bench, it would completely change the way they play defense. His presence would turn a struggling second unit into a well-balanced group that can hold its own against opposing teams. And here's another key stat. Rui's impact is felt in nearly half of the games he plays, with 48.9% of his games resulting in a positive plus-minus. That's a number that's way higher than anyone on the Lakers' second unit. Connect sits at 40.8%, Goodwin is all the way down at 33.3%, and Len is barely breaking 30.6%. That means when Rui is on the floor, the Lakers actually have a chance to outscore their opponents, instead of just trying to keep up. If Rui moves to the bench, the Lakers' second unit wouldn't just be surviving, they'd be dominating. Right now, they struggle to hold leads, but with Rui in the mix, they'd finally have a defensive anchor who can control the paint, contest shots, and prevent easy buckets. That's the kind of impact that could take the Lakers to another level, and the numbers prove it. This move wouldn't just be beneficial, it would be a game changer for the entire team. And then check out the usage. Right now, the bench lacks a consistent scoring leader, and the advanced stats prove Rui is the perfect fit to take over that role. His usage rate sits at 16.2%, ranking in the top 41% of players, meaning he's already responsible for a solid portion of the team's offensive possessions. That's exactly what the Lakers' second unit needs. Someone who can take on a high offensive workload without sacrificing efficiency. When you compare Rui's numbers to the rest of the Lakers bench, it becomes even more obvious that he'd be the best option to lead that group. Dalton Knecht currently has a slightly higher usage rate at 18.1%, ranking in the top 53% of players, but the way he's being used isn't ideal. He's taking fewer shots than Rui at 7.4 field goal attempts per game, getting to the line less often at 1.2 free throw attempts and only averaging 0.9 assists. That means even though he's technically involved in a higher percentage of possessions, he's not doing as much with those opportunities. That's a problem when you don't have a go-to scorer on the second unit. But if Rui moves to the bench, everything changes. Knecht would no longer have to force his own offense, allowing him to play off Rui as a catch-and-shoot weapon. With Rui drawing defensive attention, Knecht's efficiency would improve, and the entire second unit would run much smoother. Then there's Jordan Goodwin, who has a lower usage rate at 15.5%, ranking in the bottom 36% of players. He's taking 7.3 shots per game, barely getting to the free throw line at 0.3 attempts, and dishing out 1.3 assists while turning it over 0.7 times per game. Those numbers tell a clear story. He's not a high-volume creator. He's much better as a secondary option, playing off a lead scorer rather than running the offense himself. That's exactly why Rui leading the bench would be the perfect move. Goodwin wouldn't have to take on more responsibility than he's comfortable with, allowing him to focus on efficient scoring and playmaking instead of being forced into a role that doesn't suit his game. Now let's talk about Alex Len, whose usage rate is by far the lowest at just 9.9%. Ranking in the bottom 4% of players. His offensive contributions are almost non-existent. He's only taking 1.3 shots per game, getting to the line less than half a time per game, and averaging just 0.9 assists. His total possessions played is also far lower than anyone else at just 15.8. That means when he's on the floor, he's barely involved in the offense at all. And that's a problem when the second unit already lacks a primary scorer. But if Rui takes over, Len wouldn't have to worry about scoring at all. He could focus on setting screens, rebounding, and playing interior defense while Rui carries the offense. Now let's take a look at how Rui's presence would change the way the second unit functions. Right now, the bench is missing a go-to scorer, and the numbers prove it. Knecht has been forced into a primary scoring role he's not built for. Goodwin is more of a secondary option, and Len isn't involved at all. But if Rui moves to the bench, all of those issues are solved. Rui's ability to create his own shot, get to the free throw line, and facilitate for teammates would instantly give the second unit an identity. Knecht could shift into a spot-up role. Goodwin could play as a secondary ball handler, and Len wouldn't be expected to do anything beyond setting screens and finishing easy looks. Another massive advantage is shot volume. Rui is already attempting 9.9 field goals per game, which is significantly more than anyone on the bench. Knecht is sitting at 7.4. Goodwin is at 7.3, and Len is barely taking any shots at all. That means if Rui moves to the second unit, the Lakers wouldn't have to rely on role players to create offense anymore. Instead, they'd have a proven scorer leading the way, ensuring that every possession is being maximized. But this isn't just about getting up shots. It's about offensive flow. Rui's presence would completely change the way the second unit plays. Right now, Knecht is being asked to create his own offense too often. Goodwin is taking on a playmaking role that doesn't fully suit him, and Len isn't contributing offensively at all. But if Rui is the lead option, everything falls into place. Knecht can focus on what he does best, catch and shoot scoring, while Goodwin can attack off the dribble when needed instead of trying to run the offense himself. And Len, he wouldn't have to do anything except rebound and play solid interior defense. Possessions played is another key factor here. Rui is playing 65.1 possessions per game, which is significantly more than anyone else on the Lakers bench. Connect is only playing 41.7, Goodwin is at 44.3, and Len is down at 15.8. That means Rui is already used to handling a high offensive workload, which is exactly what the second unit needs. If he moves to the bench, the Lakers wouldn't have to worry about offensive inconsistency because Rui is already proven in that role. And let's not forget about turnovers. Rui is averaging just 0.9 turnovers per game, which is lower than both Goodwin and Connect. Despite playing more possessions, that means he's not just creating offense, he's doing it while maintaining control of the ball. That's huge for a bench unit because the last thing they need is wasted possessions. Goodwin, for example, is turning it over 0.7 times per game despite having a lower usage rate, which means he's more prone to mistakes when asked to create. That's another reason why Rui should be the one leading this group. He's already shown he can take on offensive responsibility while keeping mistakes to a minimum. At the end of the day, this move wouldn't just be good for Rui, it would completely unlock the Lakers' second unit. The numbers show that Connect is being asked to do too much. Goodwin is better as a secondary option, and Len isn't contributing offensively at all. But Rui fixes all of that in one move. His ability to finish plays at a high rate while maintaining ball control would give the Lakers a bench unit that actually makes sense. Overall though, Rui is the key to unlocking this team's full potential. Whether he stays in the starting lineup or moves to the bench, the Lakers have to find the best way to maximize his impact. And the numbers don't lie. He's been one of their most efficient scorers, a reliable presence, and a player who can thrive in the right role. This isn't about limiting him. It's about putting him in the best position to succeed. The Lakers are in a unique spot. They've built a roster full of offensive talent, but balance is the real challenge. The starting lineup already features elite playmakers and scorers, which means Rui's touches are sometimes limited. And that's where things get tricky. If he's only getting a few opportunities each game, is that really the best way to use him? Or would the team be better off letting him take full control of the second unit, where he can be the primary option and showcase just how effective he can be? A move to the bench doesn't mean Rui would be any less important. In fact, it might make him even more valuable. The Lakers bench has been inconsistent, and they desperately need a scorer who can keep the offense flowing when the starters rest. Rui can be that guy. His ability to create his own shot, knock down mid-range jumpers, and finish at the rim gives the Lakers a go-to option off the bench. And when you add in his elite efficiency, it's easy to see how he could turn the second unit into a real strength instead of a weakness. But this isn't just about offense. It's about the entire team's balance. The Lakers have struggled at times defensively, and while Rui isn't a liability, his skill set is better suited for offense. If he moves to the bench, the Lakers could insert a more defensive-minded player into the starting lineup, which could help them match up better with certain teams. That's where someone like Finney-Smith or Vanderbilt comes into play. Both of those guys bring a level of defensive intensity that the Lakers need, and shifting Rui to the second unit could allow the team to improve on both ends of the floor. And let's talk about the chemistry aspect, because that's just as important as the stats. Rui has already shown he can fit in alongside stars like LeBron and Luka, but sometimes playing with great players means sacrificing shot attempts. That's not a bad thing, but it does mean that his numbers could be even better if he had a bigger role. In the starting lineup, he's often the third or fourth scoring option, but off the bench, he'd be the number one guy every time he's on the floor. That's the difference between averaging 13 points per game and potentially pushing that number closer to 20. His ability to elevate the second unit would also take pressure off the Lakers' top stars. One of the biggest challenges for any team is maintaining a lead when their starters sit. Right now, the Lakers bench doesn't always hold up its end of the bargain, but with Rui leading that group, they'd have a legitimate scoring threat at all times. That kind of depth is what separates good teams from great ones. And let's not ignore the fact that this move would make Rui even more dangerous in the playoff. Depth matters even more in the postseason, and teams that can maintain offensive production when their stars rest are the ones that last the longest. Rui coming off the bench would give the Lakers a massive advantage, allowing them to keep constant pressure on their opponents while managing the workload of their starters. He'd be in a role where he could dominate against second unit defenders, take high quality shots, and keep the Lakers offense rolling. But even if the Lakers decide to keep Rui in the starting lineup, they need to find ways to get him more involved. He's simply too efficient to be underutilized. Whether it's running more plays for him, giving him extra minutes with the bench unit, or tweaking the lineup rotations to maximize his strengths, the Lakers have to make sure he's getting enough opportunities to impact the game. When he's fully engaged, the team is that much better. At the end of the day, the the Lakers have an incredible weapon in Rui. He's efficient, versatile, and capable of being a difference maker no matter where he plays. Whether he stays in the starting lineup or leads the bench, his role needs to be one that allows him to thrive. If the Lakers use him correctly, he could be the missing piece that helps them take the next step toward contention. Laker fans have seen what Rui can do, and the numbers prove his value. This isn't about limiting him, it's about putting him in the best position to succeed. And when Rui is at his best, the Lakers are at their best. If they get this right, there's no telling just how far this team can go. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.